The focus would be to be able to think, no matter what scenario a business is under, we should be able to think how we could help that organization. So for this specific scenario, I want you to all think of, pretend one of your prospects or your current client has this scenario. And the thought is that each one of us can contribute in some way, shape, or form to help this business owner under that specific situation. And the thinking really is that one of us would initially be the first person to work with this company. So for instance, if we had a business coach like a Chris Lipper, he could be the first one to work out, so, and then the next step would be, once things are isolated on what the needs are, then each one of us might be able to contribute. So it's an idea of basically offering to a company a consortium, a team that somebody can provide and say, listen, we can help you. And we've got 6 or 7 people along the line who can contribute their share. And it's like a all-in-one package where we can help a company. I don't know if that makes sense, but.
Makes sense.
And it's really great about, being able to, the whole we're stronger together and keeping everyone within the network and helping each other to promote each other, so that you don't lose your connection with the individual. You're just helping them by referring people that matter, that can help. And that's what this session is about. Really talk about your way to where you can add value and where it would pass off. And then again, we will cut these sections up, which just build up your strength in your profile, and we'll put those pieces in. So
the way I look at this, if we look who's in the audience right now, I would say Chris would go first in talking about this scenario, because he probably would be the first person of all of us to be the first touch point for this business. And then after Chris, we'll learn which one of us would go next to be able to contribute.
I'm late to the conversation. I don't know what I'm being voluntold for.
Yeah, no, I'll kick it off, because often this is my scenario, and this is kind of where teams came from. So literally, a lot of times I will have a client that'll come in, and they'll either be one way or another. And in this scenario, so if I was to have a client, I have a client that's very profitable, but the owner, but they're not working reasonable hours. So basically, the person's very profitable, but they can't strike a work-life balance. They pretty much are a slave to their job, and they're coming to be complaining that, yeah, it's a good year, now I got to pay all this taxes, but I'm doing everything myself. I can't grow. I can't do anything. I can't expand upon where I am. But I'm making money, but I'm miserable and I hate it and I don't know what I should do. So one of the first things I could do is send them off to Chris and be like, hey, here's an individual that can help you to figure out, like, what are you? And the question, because I know Chris now and I've listened to what he says, I'd be like, hey, what's your end goal? Like to work yourself to a grave, or do you have a different end goal? Let me introduce you to a guy who will start at the end goal and work and help you work backwards. And then I would just hand that to Chris, and then you could talk about what you would do with this person.
I got to say, I'm glad I showed up this morning. Sorry I was late. So one of the ways we view this is spokes in a wheel. You got a cog in the middle and the old wagon wheels, and you got your spokes. And if the spokes aren't even, the wheel doesn't turn right. So you got to figure out what your spokes are. And that's a session that I sit down with people and we evaluate energy and time spent on spokes. But it's not just time, it's energy.
So Chris, question for you. So we look at this scenario. Dennis, can you put the scenario back up on the screen?
Definitely.
So the thought is, so Chris, you're walking through this scenario. What would be some common potential outcomes of your engagement with this company, and what would you maybe see as the next step on which one of us could you then say, you know what, the next person in my team who could take from here and forward the progress would be so-and-so?
Well, certainly Dennis, right? Because he's our numbers guy. But many of you have, I know Erin, and she has figured out how to have a work-life balance and showing her homes and making it work for her. You found a way of I guess we've all found a way of doing this, right? I don't know all of you as well as I should. And Randy, you're another one. I'm just looking around the screen, but we've all found a way of making work-life balance work for us to a point. And I don't think there's anyone here working 80, 90 hours a week. At least I hope not.
So then another thing, again, and again, if it started off with me, I can say, okay, so here you can talk to Chris, who will help you with that. And then I would obviously say, if you are having this, if it is profitable and you still feel you have to work for the money, why isn't the money working for you? Let me introduce you to Mariella.
Right. One of the things I would ask, Chris, do you look at processes that may impact the work-life balance, the current processes that are taking place?
Yeah, I use the word system. So
Okay.
we always talk about systems and managing systems versus people.
Okay.
And the idea is, and part of working it backwards, right? The less of you, the more it's worth. So it's always about teaching people how to delegate. And it's a wonderful book out there called Who, Not How.
Right.
And I refer to that a lot.
So let's say you see here that there could be some delegation. What would be some potential areas that you've told some of your clients this might be a good thing for you to delegate, and then maybe we're one of.
I have a prop. Can you guys
Okay.
see this? So I could share it on the screen if I was prepared, but there's things that you enjoy doing. There's things that the company needs, and there's things that you're good at. The things that the owner should keep are the stuff in the middle. That's the sweet spot. Right? Those are everything else you should delegate and keep the things you enjoy. So the company may need filing, and you may even be good at filing, but you probably don't enjoy filing. Is that a good use of your time? Right? You would be the most expensive filer on the planet. Delegate it. I am not great at marketing. I don't know how to market myself. And I feel like it's showing off or it's doing things I'm not comfortable with. I need to delegate that. Okay. I'm not good at it.
So let's take that filing as an example of something that could be outsourced or somebody brought in. Who in our group would it be? Maybe marketing? Would you want to hire somebody? You obviously would have the money if you're profitable to maybe pay somebody to come in and do the filing. But who in our cog here would be the next step to maybe tackle the filing?
So I might ask Desiree and say, hey, I need a virtual assistant, let's say. Could you help me find a virtual assistant or help this person find a virtual assistant or something like that?
Mm-hmm.
Yes. So for me, I agree, that small business owners, they wear a lot of hats in the business, managing, growing the business and networking, even like all of you here. And then your customers, they expect you to be able to reach you. Your customers, they expect to be able to reach you, for you to be active on social media. So with all of those things on your plate, hiring a social media manager or a virtual assistant, like what Chris mentioned, will really help you save time, and that's one huge thing off your plate. And right now in the post pandemic, you can hire a virtual assistant anytime, anywhere. It's very easy. So that's a really good suggestion coming from Chris.
That's great. See, that's how we've established how Desiree can help. And then we think about now the onus is on that business owner to hire somebody. Wouldn't it be good if we could close the gap and have a recruiter in this group? Right.
Great.
So if we had a recruiter in this group who is like a broker who could go out and find different things, then that actual activity is taken up by somebody else for that owner, so they're not spending time looking for somebody. They could do the interviewing. So that's a thought on where the gap might be for this North Jersey group. Let's look for a recruiter for stuff
or
like
an HR company.
Or an HR company, outsourced HR. Absolutely. So that's one way to close the gap on the type of person we need for this group. All right. So Chris, any other things in addition to the filing or the that you might uncover in a situation like this?
Depending on the size of the company, some owners can be, they're control freaks.
Okay.
So maybe they can't let go, and maybe they're better off being a solopreneur. There's nicer ways of wording that, but that could be the reality. Or
Is
maybe
part of your
they're,
training helping individuals like that relinquish some control, or is it another type of individual who can help them kind of release that?
so I find the best way of coaching is to let people think it's their idea.
Hmm.
So I need to find the vision for them or with them, and
Mhm.
then bring them to it, guiding them and letting them find their way. And I'm just the guy kind of pushing from the back and helping them steer, if you know what I mean, keeping them
Yeah.
in the boundaries and reminding them of their goal.
All right. So that makes sense. So now we've taken off the plate, let's say we've now hired a marketing assistant, a marketing social media person, and we've hired a virtual assistant. What other areas where would this business owner be working in the business versus on the business that we could, maybe one of us can help? Probably Dennis, I would think, maybe from here.
Sure. And then that's what I said, like, the first thing I would do is say, okay, so we're helping you to retain more of what you earn, but let's look at how long you have to learn, where's your projections. That's what I said. I would go turn it over to Morella and say, hey, here's some, so they should be looking at, if they are profitable, what are they doing to maintain and retain your profit? And what are you doing to do that? So that I would push them to Morella to see what they're doing, and are we going to be putting some into SEP plans? Are we going to be putting it into a 401k? What are you going to do which will reduce your immediate tax burden and then project your cash flow long term? So I would turn to Morella. And what would you do with someone who came in as a business owner, Morella?
Yeah, no, this is a perfect topic because I actually just met with 5 restaurant owners last week, and they were all opening a new business. So they were all very hectic. And the first thing I always do with them is I do a cash flow analysis, and I'm just looking at what's coming in and what's going out. So I know how much they're able to save and put aside. And the one thing that a lot of business owners don't think about is their retirement, because they don't know what they're going to do with the business once they leave. So whether they want to sell it, whether they want to move it on to a family owner or a child, it's planning for that, but making sure that you're able to one day retire and actually relax and not be involved in the business. Right? A lot of business owners don't think about that. They just say, until I can work, I'll work. So they don't put a plan together. So it's perfect that, Chris will have a plan, and Desiree would help on, okay, now how can you take a vacation? Now how can you have a good work balance? But we're all come in is, okay, well, eventually, how are we planning for you to retire one day? And also making sure that if anything were to happen to you and you can't come to the business, that you at least have something to help you still have income, kind of like a business overhead protection, right? Because I had one client tell me that he got into a huge accident and he couldn't walk, but he didn't have any protection. So he had to go into his deli every day. So he literally went to work with a scooter, and that's how he used to walk around because he couldn't walk. So it's just having those different protections in place and also having a plan for the future so that you're not working in the business for the rest of your life.
Fabulous.
And the other thing on that topic, I'd go back to Dennis to make sure what they're selling the right products. Sometimes you got to look at the profit and see what products are profitable. And a lot of times owners are selling the wrong things, or the emphasis is on the wrong things. It's the guy at the counter says, do you want fries with that? Fries are the most profitable thing. That's why they want to sell it. You look at how stores used to be set up with the film right at the behind the counter when we used to sell film, because the profit was so high, right? Or batteries or whatever it is. But most owners don't even know what products they should be putting the emphasis on.
Right. And the same thing I'll look at is, I'll look at their mortgage situation. That I always look at that, the interest or what they do. And with this one, I would definitely reach out to Randy, because if you get that, you want a loan when you don't need it. When you need it, nobody's going to give it to you. So one of the first things I would do is reach out to Randy.
No, and I agree. It's funny because I meet a lot of businesses, when they're newer, it's a little bit easier to mold them because they haven't made those mistakes yet. When they've been around a while, you hear about, all their shortcomings and, how they had to struggle and did this and that. And I'm like, I always think like, well, if you would have came here first, we probably could have avoided, 90% of those. And like you said, is when it comes to lending, it's always when you want it, not, I'm sorry, it's always when you need it, And people don't think of that. They always think of like, well, I'll just get it when I need it. But when you need it, you're not as lendable all the time. So that's why we always recommend, always have that contingency in place, and it's something as simple as, a small line of credit you can build off of, that just sits there. If you don't use it, that's fine, but you have it, for those emergencies. And I always kind of bring this up is, where would you be? A lot of these businesses, where would they have been without the PPP loans, right? So a lot of them, we kind of say, hey, let's think of a emergency plan before this emergency happens. And that's kind of where we step in. We also help too with alleviating a lot of the headaches that come with owning a business on the banking side. So something like wires, right? You could do those from home with us. We could set you up like with that. You need an easier way for ACHs to come in and out. Well, we have something in place for that. So a lot of it's just, they don't know what they don't know. So a lot of it's just education. And I think that's where we all kind of come in our own
So this is-
special
yeah.
sweet spot.
Yeah, so this is great. So now Chris has already established what the end goal is and worked backwards and offered some ideas. We've already got we've got a virtual assistant and a marketing plan in place with Desiree. We've got a long-term retirement plan stuff set in place with Morella. We've gotten them a line of credit or a loan. So they have money to spend on the business without dipping into their own personal stuff. Now, Dennis, you've established how they're going to keep more of their earnings in their budget. You'll be able also to see where you believe they may be spending more, where they could kind of lower those things. So that's something I could do because it's on
Exactly.
the other group.
I would send them
work-
to cut
Yeah.
to save the cost.
Yeah. So I mean, in my other role, I'll help them reduce the cost, which also gives them back time because they're not the ones scouring over the invoices and spending that time.
But even if
And
you,
then they can go to Camille and get their house all changed around, get rid of their old stuff, get new stuff in, and have Aaron sell it so they can buy their mansion.
well, I was going to say the opposite. I mean, and I would talk
too.
to someone on this. Someone on this, I would say, if they were extremely profitable and they needed to force themselves to get there, have you looked at investing in a shore house or something along those lines? And that's where we could talk into Aaron about those kind of things, about if they're looking to expand their reach, kind of sometimes you have to force yourself. If you have it, you're going to use it. You're going to make it profitable. Because I always talk about people at a certain point, they need rental property. Like at this point, you're going to need some rental property to take some types of write-offs and to do things that you can't do. So I would introduce rental property, and then Aaron would be someone I'd introduce him to.
Yeah, or a larger commercial space.
Yeah, I was going to say that's where I was going to go with that, Aaron, where they may have, you just got to situate whatever they're working in, is that square footage appropriate for what they're doing? They can go right to Aaron for that and you can assess that.
And of course, eventually the home will kind of mirror that, because this is a very hardworking business person. They need a sauna in the basement and a pool in the backyard and, 3 acres out in, let's say, Harding. Just,
Yeah.
just saying.
I could also help them with the product we have, because it helps with healthy healing, and the ASEA product, basically it just enhances everything else they're utilizing. It's a complementary supplement to everything else. So we got to help them kind of age healthy so they could be around reaping the benefits of all their hard work.
And
Now,
thinking
Camille-
clearly and wisely and all that stuff.
Yeah.
And then Camille, do you guys, and has George thought of this yet, or do you do any of this with using some of your furniture for staging purposes?
We haven't yet with at the consignment store, but on my end, I definitely do go into staging and just creating an aesthetic that is pleasing to the eye, and someone can actually see the piece that I'm trying to sell in their home, because staging is a very, very big part of selling an item.
Yeah, so I would say even just for realtors, and for when they're staging the home that they're going to be selling, and or if you're looking to put it into an office place. So depending on their office space and what they do, we could be recommending that they have, that you could help with that as well.
Absolutely, because it's important to have beautiful items around you, just to, if you are stuck at a desk or you are stuck in your office, if you look and you have like this pop of color or just an antique mirror that's there up on the wall, just little things I think are important with just creating a a healthy, productive workspace. So yeah, absolutely. I could be the person to assist with making a calming, also pleasing atmosphere in the work environment.
Do we have a web designer here? Do you do that, Desiree?
Sorry, yes, we do it. We do offer it under Relax Sam. Relax Sam is sales and marketing, and so we also offer building websites and funnels for small businesses.
Good, because they may need that assessment too from you.
Excellent. Great job. So these are the kind of things where if you suggest the topics, we're able to, this is what we mean by suggesting a topic, just kind of give us a scenario and or just a general topic. And then again, when we find a way to engage each other and to get to know each other better while still being able to highlight our strengths and what we do.